Hi, this is Dr. Glenn, Clinical Director of the Carroll Institute, where we focus on reversing the symptoms of Alzheimer's and dementia. I've put together a few little videos here about insulin resistance, and we're going to have some videos also on keto diet, the keto diet, which has become very popular lately, and how it relates to treating Alzheimer's and other types of cognitive decline. Now today what I want to talk about is insulin resistance. What is it, and what does it have to do with Alzheimer's disease? Now blood sugar levels rise when you eat high carbohydrate diets, such as the typical standard American diet, which we've been eating here since the late 1970s. If you don't know the history behind that, in 1977, George McGovern chaired the Senate Subcommittee on Diet and Nutrition and rewrote the food pyramid and started to pursue a high carbohydrate grain-based diet because of the erroneous idea that eating fats not only made you fat but caused heart disease. That is a completely different topic that we can take up at another time. The hormone insulin, when your blood sugar goes up, goes to work shuttling glucose into your muscles and liver cells, and all of your cells for that matter, to use, or later you will store it as fat around the middle. Glucose or carbohydrates are what make you fat. Eating fat does not make you fat. A diet high in carbohydrates constantly wears out the body's response to insulin. Eventually, cells ignore or begin to resist, that's where the word comes from, insulin, and glucose remains in the blood, causing high blood sugar levels. This obviously leads to type 2 diabetes, and actually we've been now recently in the last few years calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because blood sugar regulation has a profound impact on brain function. It also leads to inflammation and other chronic diseases. Insulin resistance affects all cells, including brain cells. A hallmark of Alzheimer's disease is the inability of brain cells to uptake or metabolize glucose. They're not able to get it into the cells. This means that brain cells can't absorb the fuel they need, that is glucose, so then they begin to starve, shrink, and die. And in a later video, we will go over exactly why the brain begins to shrink and why it begins to abandon certain abilities and functions. One is including memory. Now, this is not even the worst part. Because your body senses extra sugar in your blood, it produces even more insulin to try to eliminate it or try to bring it down and get it under control. Unfortunately, the enzymes that break down the insulin, these are the same enzymes that break down the amyloid plaques, and you may have heard of amyloid plaques. They are what are the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. When your blood sugar goes up, your body has to take its limited supply of enzymes that it would normally use to protect your body from plaquing and go over and bring the insulin levels down. So bringing your blood sugar up actually inhibits your body from being able to protect your brain. One of the things that we have seen recently in the literature, and there's lots of literature on this, if you're interested, you can Google this stuff. Research shows now that insulin resistance leads to shrinkage of a part of the brain called the hippocampus. And you have a left side and a right-sided hippocampus, and that is one of the parts of the brain where you actually create memories. And this is the reason why, as cognitive impairment progresses, you start losing the ability to remember short-term things, but you'll find that someone can still remember the name of their third grade teacher or something like that. You start to lose the ability to create new memory. So let me show you what actually goes on with insulin resistance. So you have glucose, And glucose comes from the carbohydrates that you eat. It does not come from the protein that you eat. It does not come from the fats that you eat. It comes from the carbohydrates you eat, the bread, the pasta, the very sweet fruits and things like that. Then you have insulin, and insulin's job is to transport the glucose molecule into the cell. So here's what you have. You have all this glucose in the blood because, especially if you're eating a high carbohydrate diet, such as granola and oatmeal for breakfast, which we all thought was good for us, eating sandwiches for lunch, even pasta salad, and then for dinner, of course, pasta is a big thing, potatoes, all these sorts of things. So the glucose tries to put the insulin tries to put the glucose into the cells, but once the cell becomes full of as much glucose as it can use, then it will create a barrier or a resistance to any more insulin. That is insulin resistance. Now, how you fix this is by decreasing the carbohydrate intake. So it's like the boy who cries wolf. The more often he cries wolf, the more resistant the people in the town become to hearing him cry wolf, and pretty soon they begin to ignore him. If he went for several weeks and didn't cry wolf, then if he did, then the people would hear him. So if you lower your carbohydrate intake, and this is the premise of a ketogenic diet, then what happens is you resensitize the cells. And so now you're able to get the glucose into the cells, your blood sugar drops down, and this is something that can be corrected in a matter of just a few months. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is reversible in a matter of just a few months. When the brain is overrun with processing high levels of insulin, amyloid breakdown, or the breakdown of potential disease-causing protein aggregates, takes a back seat. Bringing your blood sugar levels down becomes more important to your survival than protecting your brain. This directly leads to an accumulation of toxic amyloid plaques, and that blocks and poisons the brain cells. This is one of the main reasons why a low carb, that is low sugar ketogenic diet, is the most fundamental change a person can make to save their brain. A keto diet triggers better blood sugar and insulin levels. It improves verbal memory performance and greater overall memory function. If you liked this video, click the like button below, subscribe to our page. If you'll click on the little bell, it will let you know every time we put up a new video, and we're going to be doing a series of videos. This was just an overview. We're going to do a series of videos on ketogenic diets and their impact on Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. If you'd like to know more about us, check us out at thecarrollinstitute.com. I'm Dr. Glenn. Have a great day.